This last year talk.
We have our mute. We want to be mute.
It's like we're just waiting for Terry. Terry's on, but not videoed. Terry, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. All right, staff, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and call the regular Ridgway Town Council meeting for June 9th, 2021 to order, and have a roll call, please.
Council members Beck,
Here.
Farrelly,
Here.
Brambley,
Here.
Lakin,
Here.
Schuyler,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer,
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here. Thank you, Pam. Next up on the agenda is, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I have one. We can add it to at the end. It's approval for a special event in Hartwell Park on July 25th for the Voyager program to do a Pride event.
Okay.
And I'll be doing that.
Okay.
They won't be present.
I'd like to throw in one thing. I got a comment question about some construction going on. So if we can throw that in somewhere.
Is it okay if we do that at the end too?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, so staff, help me remember that we have those two items. Anything else?
We need to talk about fire restrictions.
Mm,
I mean,
Point.
I'm a little worried that if we wait until our July meeting, we're going to be getting a little late. We're not quite there, but worth bringing up.
Yeah, why don't we have that as an item at the end as well?
Okay.
Is that okay with staff?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Anything else? All right, that brings us to adoption of the consent calendar. As you all know, if there's anything on there you want me to pull off, mention that now. Otherwise, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll move to approve. Oh, there you go.
Russ made the motion. Somebody else want a second? Kevin?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, made by Russ, seconded by Kevin. Roll call vote, please.
Members Beck. Councilmember Beck. Is he there?
Now can you, yay.
Farrelly,
Aye.
Grambley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Schuyler,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer,
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
That takes care of that. That brings us to a monumental milestone that we're recognizing tonight, which is that of the proclamation honoring Pam Kraft for her 25 years of service to the town of Ridgway. Another example, we've got such amazing staff, and many of them have been with us for decades, and Pam is yet another one who came on many years ago, began her tenure with the town on June 26, 1984. Is that right?
no,
She says
that's when I first became a clerk, but not with the town of Ridgway.
right.
96.
Right, 96 with the town, right. I'm going to actually go ahead and read this proclamation because I think this is a big deal, and I think Pam deserves the recommendation or recognition. I'm sorry. So this is a proclamation of the town of Ridgway, Colorado. A proclamation honoring Pam Kraft for 25 years of service to the town of Ridgway. Whereas Pam Kraft first became town clerk in 1984 when Mammoth Lakes, the town she lived in at the time, was incorporated. And whereas Pam became the Ridgway town clerk / treasurer in 1996 after assisting the town on a contractual basis. And whereas her 25 years of service have been marked by exemplary dedication to the interests of the community and service to citizens. And whereas she assisted in the formation of the Ridgway Public Library District and Ridgway Public Arts. And whereas she was instrumental in establishing the annual Harvest Festival, Love Your Valley Festival, and the Ridgway Concert Series. And whereas she led the efforts to obtain various grants for the planning and construction of the Uncompahgre River Restoration Project. And whereas she requested a donation of land for soccer fields and the gifted 18 acres that resulted in the Ridgway Athletic Park. And whereas she continues to hold an extensive amount of duties as town clerk and treasurer, which includes but is not limited to conducting elections, preparing the annual budget and capital improvement plan, coordinating various town events, serving as risk manager, tax collector and records manager, and supervising the department to provide administrative and financial services, human resources, and utility billing. And whereas her remarkable reserve and resiliency for the town of Ridgway has been and will continue to be in good hands, with Pam tirelessly serving its citizens, visitors, and business owners. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Council of the Town of Ridgway, Colorado, as follows. Section 1, Town of Ridgway hereby expresses its sincere appreciation to Pam for her dedicated work and tireless efforts in the town clerk's department. And Section 2, by virtue of Pam's community involvement, leadership, and dedication, we, the Ridgway Town Council, proclaim June 26th, 2021 as Pam Kraft Day in the town of Ridgway, and urge all Ridgway citizens to congratulate and thank Pam for her public service. Dated this 9th day of June 2021. And we need a motion to formally approve this proclamation, which I'm sure will not be.
I move to adopt a proclamation honoring Pam Kraft for her years of service to the town of Ridgway.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? I guess we need the roll call vote as usual. Sorry. Preston, why don't you do the roll call vote? It seems silly to have Pam.
Council members Beck,
Aye.
Borelli,
Aye.
Grambly,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Schuyler,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
And I heartily agree. Everybody I know in the town of Ridgway knows and loves Pam for all of her hard work and dedication. And Pam, just thank you so much for all your years of service.
Thank you.
Thank
It really has been an honor. And I'm really grateful that most of my career has been here.
We are too. Absolutely.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
I think the local shop should give out free ice cream on Pam Kraft Day. We had that-
At least to Pam, right?
Yeah, the minimum.
I'll talk to Torben about it. All right. Well, again, hearty congratulations, Pam. I don't know if anybody in the audience wants to add anything. Should give an opportunity for that. But it's been a huge pleasure all the decades I've been able to work with you, Pam. I've been here as long and longer than you have, and it's been a joy every day to work with you. So thank you.
Thank you, John.
Looks like Tom McKinney wants to add something. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Tom.
All I wanted to do is say thank you personally. Not much more to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
And John, I'll add, I've only been here about 1.5 years now, but Pam has been a wonderful resource to me and an absolute pleasure to work with. And I'm not just saying that because she sits right next to me during these council meetings that are virtual for a long time. But I'm genuine when I say that. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with Pam, and she's been a great public servant and ambassador for the town.
Absolutely. Thanks for those comments, Preston. And thanks again, everybody, and a huge thanks again to Pam. All right, that takes us to item number 7, which is under, well, actually, I'm sorry, let me back up. The next on the agenda is our monthly public comments section, which is time set aside for anyone in the audience to address town council on an issue that's not otherwise on the agenda. Does anybody have anything? Minutes, give it a second here in case somebody's slow on muting. Just go ahead and feel free to unmute yourself if you have anything. All right, hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on. That takes us to public requests and presentations. Item number 6 is a proclamation, another proclamation declaring June as Immigrant Heritage Month. Robin, are you on the call? Let's see Robin on here yet. Well, maybe I'll just go ahead and take this one because I talked to her about it. This is a proclamation asking the town to consider adopting June 21 as Immigrant Heritage Month. Again, I think I'll just read the proclamation, and Robin, if Robin shows up, hopefully she'll just unmute herself, but I still don't see her. So this is an official proclamation from the town of Ridgway, Colorado, declaring June 2021 as Immigrant Heritage Month. Whereas generations of immigrants from every corner of the globe have built our country's economy and created a unique character for our nation. And whereas immigrants have provided the United States of America with unique social and cultural influence, fundamentally enriching the extraordinary character of our nation. And whereas despite these countless contributions, the role of immigrants in building and enriching our nation has frequently been overlooked and undervalued throughout our history and continuing to the present day. And whereas the United States, because of the Constitution, is a beacon of hope for people all over the globe seeking a better life and peaceful future. And whereas immigration enhances Ridgway's cultural diversity as foreign-born individuals add to the variety of languages, customs, and cuisines enjoyed in the town. And now, therefore, I, Mayor John Clark, and Ridgway Town Council do hereby recognize the month of June as Immigrant Heritage Month in the town of Ridgway. And I call this observance to the attention of our residents and encourage them to learn more about the social and economic impact of immigrants to our community and state. Joined us while I was doing that. Doesn't look like it. Any discussion? Oh, there she is, Robin. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you're able.
Are you already ready for us?
Yep, we are. I already read the proclamation. Did you hear any of that?
Oh, okay, awesome. Wow. I didn't think we'd be on till 6. Well, great.
You underestimate us.
I do. Let me be sure I got the right documents up. Okay.
So as I said, I introduced it and I read the proclamation. Go ahead and give
Great.
Like to.
Sure. Kalispera, Evcharisto. In Greek, the language of my parents and ancestors, I say good evening and thank you for the opportunity to present the Immigrant Heritage Month proclamation that honors immigrants past and current who have contributed invaluably to our nation's prosperity. I've heard it said that unless you are indigenous, you arrived on this continent as an immigrant, refugee, or enslaved person. Regardless of your journey, I'd like to acknowledge that original inhabitants were here upon our arrival and forcibly removed during colonization. As we honor and celebrate immigrants this month, that history warrants mention. I am the daughter of immigrants. My dad crossed the Atlantic on a ship with my yaya, which is Greek for grandma, when he was 18 months old. I often marvel how he entered kindergarten not speaking or comprehending a word of English and was harassed and chased home from school daily, yet went on to graduate from university with a degree in civil engineering and play a role in the nation's aerospace program that, among many projects at that time, launched the Hubble Space Telescope. My mom, a talented musician, dreamed of becoming a professional singer, but due to practicalities, went to secretarial school, worked, raised a family, and settled for directing the church choir. In anticipation of addressing you today, I reflected upon the many immigrants and descendants of immigrants in our community, business owners, teachers, creatives, professionals, government employees, and many essential workers who have kept our community functioning during this challenging year. They come from all corners of the globe and enrich our community with their diverse skills, experiences, and vision. It is my honor now to introduce Giovanni Mendoza, who works for all three of our community's law enforcement agencies. Welcome, Gio, and thank you for joining us today to share your story as we proclaim June Immigrant Heritage Month.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, I cannot see the video. Oh, let me see.
There you go.
There. Okay. Hi. Well, let me begin with December of 1994 was the time when my life and my family was about to change. Hi, my name is Giovanni Mendoza, and it is an honor to speak to you today and to share part of my story as we proclaim June Immigrant Heritage Month. I was born and raised in El Salvador in Central America, where I lived until I was 18 years old. My father decided to move to the United States. At the beginning, my brother and I didn't know exactly what was going on. I was in college studying engineering. My brother was in high school, and my mom was working as a nurse. We didn't know exactly what was going on because we had lived through the Civil War, and now that the war was over is when our dad decided to move. With all the proper legal documents, my dad immigrated to the United States in 1993. And my mother, my brother, and I came a year later. My father was the principal of a school founded by missionaries from the United States. And when we immigrated, he started working as a pastor in the San Francisco, California area. We knew it was going to be hard, many difficulties along the way, such as learning a new language, new culture, and many other things. My father told my brother and I, you guys are going to be good in our new country. You guys will learn new things, but overall, be good to society. It was then we found out we had left El Salvador for safety reasons. Our family was receiving threats. Learning a new language was difficult. I began taking ESL classes in the morning and electronic classes at night. I did it because I needed to become familiar with new sounds, and the interaction with native speakers was huge. I then began working in an auto parts company in San Francisco. I started from the bottom, but with hard work and perseverance, I eventually became the store manager for that company. In 2003, my family and I came to Colorado for a vacation. And a short time later, we decided to move to this beautiful area. In 2005, I applied for the Montrose Police Department. I remember that it was Sheriff Justin Perry who was the one who completed my background investigation. I was hired in 2005 as a patrol officer, and during my time with that agency, I performed different assignments such as trainer officer, hostage negotiator, SWAT operator, narcotics investigator, and many other things. Also in 2013, I started working as a part-time officer for the Ridgway Police Department and been doing that since. I left the Montrose Police Department in 2015 and started a new journey as a director of operations for South River Aquaponics in Montrose. With that company, we're working in different projects, promoting new types of agricultural practices that are going to benefit many parts of this country and beyond because of the sustainability that we offer. I am also a true believer that it's never too late to move forward in life and continue my education and obtain a bachelor's degree in business administration. Even though my daughters were born here in the United States, they know the gift of being a citizen of this great country and will also want to give back to and help people in different ways. My oldest daughter, she's a senior in the nursing school at CMU, and my youngest one would like to continue her her education in the medical field as well. I love being part of this community. I love being part of law enforcement. In addition to my full-time job, I am also working as a part-time for the Ridgway Marshal's Office, the Ouray Police Department, and for the Ouray County Sheriff's Office. I am only one of the past and present immigrants who have come to the United States, who have worked and are still working hard to make this great nation their home. We continue working hard to give back to this great country and to make it better and better every day. Thank you so much, and thank you for signing this proclamation.
Thanks, Giovanni. That was great. Appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Giovanni? It's an inspirational story.
John, this is Justin Perry. I don't have any questions, but if this is an appropriate time, can I just say a few words?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Justin. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I don't have video. I'm actually on my cell phone traveling, but wanted to make sure that I was logged in for this. This right here, hearing Gio and the many other folks who we know who are currently either immigrating or have immigrated is a testament to the greatness of immigration and how important it is for us in America. And I can tell you, I've worked around Gio for quite some time, and he has benefited all of our communities in such incredible ways. And I just want to say thank you to Gio for his dedication, for him coming tonight to speak. It's very difficult for me because I hear so many negative things right now on the news and around about immigration. And guys, immigration is the American dream. People come here to fulfill a dream, to escape horror, to be in a safe place where they can live out a quality of life. And I personally welcome anybody who has that great desire to improve their family lives and to improve their situations to come to America. It is a true honor for us to be here and to accept them into our great nation, and they critically benefit us every day. And I just want to say thank you for this opportunity tonight. And Robin, thank you especially for bringing this proclamation forward. I'm just, it's an honor to be able to hear Gio and to work with Gio and the many others who are recent and not even recent, but immigrants altogether. And quite frankly, all of us are immigrants in some way, because this is a melting pot. And unless you are indigenous from long ago, we're all in this together. But John, thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate your comments. They're spot on. And I'm happy to say that I think all of us here on the Ridgway Town Council would agree wholeheartedly. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, Robin?
Yeah, just thank you for the time, and I apologize for being late. I'm a little embarrassed.
That's okay. It happens. And, I guess I could have gone forward and come back to you, but I just thought it was a great thing. So I just went ahead and read the proclamation. I don't know if you missed that or not, but
That I did miss it, but that's okay. I'm glad you were able to do that. So thank you.
and let me just ask if anybody else in the audience wants to add a comment or a question or has anything to add to the discussion on this item, or anybody on council. Otherwise,
I'll move to adopt the proclamation declaring June 2021 as Immigrant Heritage Month.
I'll second
that. That's seconds. Thank you, everybody. And Pam, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Members Beck,
Aye.
Relly,
Aye.
Brambley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Schuyler,
Very muted. Thumbs up.
and Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
There you go, Terry.
Aye. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'll, even though I don't get a vote on, and it's not a tie, my hearty thumbs up to this as well. And as does Deidre, I see. Thank you, Deidre. Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Gio.
You're welcome,
Thanks, Justin. We'll all celebrate June as Immigrant Heritage Month very happily. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item number 7, I believe. That is request for use of rights of way during Old West Fest for wagon rides along North Lena, Charles, Cora, and Clinton Streets, and a horse parade along North Lena, Charles, North Railroad, North Lena, Charles, and North Railroad Streets. And I believe Eve Becker Doyle is on here to address this item. Ready, you can unmute yourself.
Unmuted?
Yep, we can hear you.
There we go.
There you are.
Everybody. Hi, John.
Hi, Eve.
First, I want to take this opportunity to thank Pam Kraft. She's worked with me on this project and been really helpful. And now I hear she has these impressive years of service. So congratulations, Pam, and thank you.
Well said.
I'm here today to discuss rights of way related to horses in the Ridgway Old West Fest. Our dates this year are September 24 to 26. I want to make you aware of what's happening, and I have 2 requests. I'm aware that horses are not allowed in Hartwell Park, and we will, of course, abide by that rule. We're using several venues, but the center and focus of activities is at Hartwell Park. We have an opening horse parade that's on Friday at 4 p.m. This involves a procession of horses going around Hartwell Park. So it's about as small a parade as you can possibly have. We are asking permission to use the 4 streets that border Hartwell for that purpose. We are also going to give wagon rides to festival goers in a wagon pulled by a pair of Suffolk draft horses. The loading and unloading of passengers will be at the turn through at the post office. And the post office is okay with that. And this works perfectly because it's Saturday afternoon when the post office is closed. It is likely that 2 to 3 horses will follow the wagon as a way of showcasing the horses. We're asking permission for a route from Lena to Frederick to Cora to Clinton back to the post office. This differs slightly from your agenda, but Frederick is a 1-block street that we want to take because it's not too far, it's not too close. Other relevant details are that the horses will be housed at the fairgrounds where they will perform in a Wild West horse show Saturday morning. They'll be coming over to the Hartwell Park area Friday afternoon for the parade and Saturday afternoon. And they will on 62 in the bike lane of 62, and they'll go single file. Is Shane on this call?
I believe so.
Oh, okay. So Shane was going to comment on the use of 62, both for the parade and then their transport.
Actually, don't see him as of this moment. He was on earlier, but I'm sure he can meet with you and
We've Pam and I met with him already, and he said he didn't see any difficulty here. It was such a limited amount that it wasn't necessary, in his opinion, to consult with CDOT. And he felt that he could approve those things.
All right.
So those are my comments.
All right, thanks. Anybody on council have questions or comments for Eve?
I have a question. Hi, Eve. Hi. Do we have somebody that's going to be following up behind the horses and cleaning up the streets afterward?
Good question. We have 3 sets of horses. 2 of them have poop bags, but the Wild West horses do not. They will have a poop cart that is at the end of the parade and at the end of the horses, and it will clean up. So
Cool.
yes.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
When I was a kid, my dad was a town councilman I was the kid dressed up like a clown running the poop cart behind horses.
Are you
Oh, good. So,
No. I've done my duty, so to speak.
oh, shoot, I thought you were volunteering.
Yeah, that sounds like experience, yeah.
Yeah. I'm busy that year.
You're well qualified.
Okay, anybody else, anybody in the audience have comments or questions on this item? All right, then someone want to make a motion?
What is there a?
So I'll move to approve the, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, do we need to approve these two applications separately or can we do them together?
They're on one application, or no, they are two separate applications. What do you say, Preston?
Yeah, together will suffice.
Okay, thanks.
I move to approve the applications for use of parks, facilities, and right-of-way for various horse activities during the Ridgway Old West Fest.
Second.
Seconded by Russ. Any other discussion? We have a roll call vote, please.
Council members Beck,
Aye.
Farrelly,
Aye.
Bramley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
Great, thanks, everybody, and there you go, Eve.
Thank you so much, you guys.
You're welcome. Looking forward to it again.
Great. It'll be fun.
Yep. All right, that takes us to item number 8, the Ridgway Youth Advisory Council end of term recognition. We hope to have the Ridgway Youth Council members actually here to be recognized tonight. And Preston, are we going to go ahead and discuss this tonight, or are we going to wait until we can get all the kids to come to one of our meetings and talk to us?
Yeah, thanks, John. I think it would be best if they were all here to recognize them and ask some questions and have them highlight some of the things they learned and did in their time on the youth council. So I was just at the front door, so sorry if I missed it. But within the last 72 hours, the large majority of youth advisory council members said they couldn't make this meeting. And so again, I do think it'd be best to wait until either the July or August meeting. It sounds like they should be able to attend the July meeting, but that remains to be seen.
Okay, why don't we'll just table this item. I don't believe we need a motion to do that. And we'll take it up again, hopefully next month, maybe August. The
Yes,
kids
sir.
are hard working. They're already back and they're already doing full-time jobs, so. All right. That takes us to item number 9. We have 2 public hearings. This is the first of 2 public hearings tonight. Item number 9 is an application for transfer of restaurant liquor license for Lazy Dog Saloon. Applicant Lazy Dog Saloon LLC, owner Reese Ransford, to operate at 153 North Highway 550, Unit F. Application was filed on May 13, 2021. Pam?
So this is a transfer of a license that council approved just at the April meeting. You approved a new license for this facility, Lazy Dog Saloon. The person who was given that license chose not to follow through and open the restaurant. So someone else is stepping in and asking to have it transferred into their name, and that is Denise Ransford. So the license will be held as exactly as was discussed at your meeting a couple months ago. It'll be held at 153 North Highway 550 in the location where there's been restaurants in the past. The license itself will include the restaurant, the existing patio to the south side of the building, and a new patio on the west side of the building. The applicant also made their request to have a concurrent review with the Liquor Enforcement Division, and they've already been reviewing the application. So at our end, all requirements of the license application have been met and all fees paid and all forms have been received. So we're just asking for the transfer of that existing license.
Okay, great. Now this is a public hearing, so that means we have to take a little bit more formal process here. I'll first ask if council has any questions. Anyone on council have questions for Pam regarding this? I don't know if Ms. Ransford is in the audience or not. It doesn't.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you are. Great. Do you have anything you want to add?
Just to thank Pam for all her help. She was an immense help in putting this all together.
She's good, isn't she?
Yes.
Well, thank you. So council, any questions for either Pam or Ms. Ransford? Seeing none, I will open up public comment. And this is an opportunity for everybody in the public to address council directly, not the applicant or staff, but anybody have any questions or comments on this liquor license application? Hopefully you know how to unmute yourself if you do. Give it another second here. I don't see anybody. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment section and bring it back to council to deliberate.
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yep.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion then?
Sure. I move to approve the transfer of the restaurant liquor license for the Lazy Dog Saloon to Denise Ramsford.
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. It's made by Russ, seconded by Terry. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Council members Beck,
Aye.
Relly,
Aye.
Brambley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody, and good luck, Denise.
Thank
Denise,
you
a
very
quick-
much.
Quick question. What's the new grand opening date? Do you have one?
We're gonna do a limited menu opening on the 15th.
Oh, it's coming up.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Yes.
Great. Glad to hear it.
Congratulations.
Forward to trying it out.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right, that takes us to the second public hearing of the evening. And that is adoption of ordinance number 04-2021, amending section 3-2 sales tax of the Ridgway Municipal Code to adopt uniform definitions to address sellers with no physical presence in the town. This is follow-up to last month's introduction of this ordinance, so you should all be familiar with it. In the town of Ridgway, we have two readings. The first reading is an introduction, and the second reading is a public hearing for adoption. So Pam, do you want to summarize for us?
Sure, thanks. Yes, at the last meeting, the council introduced this ordinance, which is being requested from the Colorado Municipal League as one of the final documents that's going to pull together a statewide project that's going to allow simplification of tax remittance and licensing for out-of-state retailers. The town is already participating at other levels with this. We are involved in a portal where these merchants can remit sales tax and have one license that's issued through the state level. It's been really helpful for both the retailers and us at the local level to track these types of things. And I have seen also that we are now receiving taxes from retailers that we weren't receiving before. And I think a lot of that wasn't really that it was, they had an oversight, but it was just really confusing for them to have so many home rule municipalities in Colorado and then also be remitting to the
Okay, you're cutting in and out just a little bit, Pam, but I think we
Oh,
got,
did you catch most of it?
I think so.
Good.
Kind of trailed off there at the end, but everybody get a good summary?
Cutting in and out. you see.
Anybody have questions for Pam or staff on this?
I think we got all those addressed in the introduction myself, but
Yep.
do we need to open this up for anything or?
We need to have a public comment.
Right.
We need to open it up for public comment. So I will do that now. Anybody in the audience want to address council with comments or questions on this piece of legislation? Again, I'll give it a minute. Just you should be able to unmute yourself if you want to make a comment or have a question. I don't imagine there'll be a lot on this one because it's pretty straightforward. All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back up here for us to vote.
So I move to approve ordinance 04-2021, amending section 3-2 sales tax of the Ridgway Municipal Code to adopt uniform definitions to address sellers with no physical presence in the town.
Second.
All right, motion made by Russ, seconded by Kevin. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Speck,
Aye.
Raleigh,
Aye.
Bramley,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
Great, passes unanimously, and that's a good one to get on the books. Thanks, staff, for all your hard work on that, and be good to have the consistency that CML recommended we get. So that concludes our public hearings for tonight. I'll move on to policy matters. Item number 11 is review and action on a revocable encroachment permit application for use of town property. Preston, you taking this one?
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So before you is a revocable encroachment permit. It's been, excuse me, it's been submitted by Cheryl and Kevin O'Brien, who reside at 1015 Clinton Street. They submitted a formal encroachment permit application for their existing shed to encroach on an undeveloped portion of North Elizabeth Street that abuts their property. The shed has been in place for, I think, approximately 35 years. Exhibit A in the revocable encroachment permit depicts the location of the existing shed. Revocable encroachment permits for use of town property have to be reviewed and approved by town council per the town code. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mayor, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And I do believe Cheryl and Kevin are here.
Yeah, thanks, Preston. And we've all got our packet in front of us, this item with all the details, including a exhibit A with layout of the encroachment. First off, I'll offer to have Cheryl and or Kevin give us any additional information you'd like us to have.
We really don't have any additional information. We just are putting this encroachment permit in at the request of the town because of a complaint made by a person in the town.
Okay.
So we're just following up on that, trying to keep everybody happy.
Okay, great. Thank you. Comments, questions from town council, either for staff or the O'Briens?
Well, I'd like to suggest that we consider revoking the permit fee in compensation for all that they've been through on this issue.
Okay, let's deal with that separately. Let's deal with the actual permit application first, but I think that's something we can consider.
Does the town have any previous agreements with the O'Briens regarding encroachment permits? More specifically on the south side of the irrigation ditch?
Not that I'm aware of. What are you referring to?
Just referring there are, well, second question. There's a front end loader and a work trailer that is parked in the open space if these lot lines are correct. And I'm curious, are those owned by the town or are those owned by the O'Briens?
Cheryl?
They're not owned by the town.
They're owned by us. They're parked up there next to our house, which is the only access we have to the property.
I'm just asking the question because it would appear to me that it wouldn't be just the shed that would be for this encroachment permit. It would be from the shed, from the east corner of the shed all the way to Clinton Street down bordering the O'Brien's property. The shed is one thing. The encroachment permit would go all the way to Clinton Street, and that is a considerable chunk.
And you're saying that because of the vehicles that are parked there?
And because of gravel laid and developed and a driveway having been built. This is not a personal attack or anything like that. I'm just, if these lot lines are correct, it is actually a considerable amount of square footage.
Okay, well, I think as Cheryl said, their driveway has always crossed the right of way for the history of the property, if I'm correct. And I think the bigger issue here, not to question your comments at all, Kevin, but that as we've discussed before, the bigger issue here is North Elizabeth Street is an undeveloped right of way belonging to the town of Ridgway. And my feeling has been since the beginning of this discussion that we really need to develop a policy that enables neighboring property owners of undeveloped rights of way to potentially use some of that space, just like the rest of us do on the developed streets in town. I mean, it occurred to me when I was thinking about this application today that, for instance, I parked my car across Moffett Street from my house. And if you look at the way the right-of-way of Moffett Street is laid out on the plat, the other side of the right-of-way is actually on the other side of Cottonwood Creek Ditch. So my car is actually parked right in the middle of the right-of-way. And, that's just one example of, I don't think anybody would claim that I don't have the right to park my car next to the developed road. Now, Bo, am I stepping out of bounds here?
Yeah, respectfully, Mayor, I think that we need to refocus the conversation here a little bit. What's before us and what's on the agenda is the request for the revocable encroachment permit for the shed occupation by the O'Briens. Certainly it's been that concern with respect to the use of the right of way has been something that's been shared and directed to the staff with respect to taking a further look into developing some policies, but that's not what the agenda is this evening, or the agenda item is with, what we're considering right now. And frankly, I think we also need to pay attention to, while Kevin's concerns are certainly valid, that permit itself is just for the use of that shed. But maybe after this item is discussed, if there's some follow-up that council has, we can certainly take a look at that.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess I would have one follow-up question for you, Bo, that I think is relevant to the discussion on this particular application, which is this shed is like many encroachments on properties all over town that have existed for decades. And my question is, if we were to approve this encroachment permit, it would be essentially a temporary approval, right? I mean, if say in 10 years, the town decides to develop that street and fully bring it up to spec, maybe even put chip seal on it, the encroachment of that shed could be voided at that
It's
point?
revocable, I guess is the better answer. And there are a number of revocable encroachment permits that are within the town. Most recently in February, the council considered a revocable encroachment permit for the landing in front of the Provisions restaurant there onto the sidewalk. So not too dissimilar in terms of some other issues. Don't really want to go down the road of other encroachments throughout the town that may or may not be cited. It's obviously something that, again, part of a larger discussion, but try to focus on what the issue is this evening.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was clear to everybody. So as Bo said, we need to refocus on just the question at hand, which is the request for a revocable permit for this 27 by 8 foot shed.
And I just have a question. Is that's for use of the shed? How does, in kind of backtracking just a little bit, how does that play into, is that use of that shed include parking of residential or of private property and business vehicles?
I think it's just the request for the shed. It's not, it isn't a request for parking. As Bo said, the point that Kevin brought up is not relevant to the request.
Yeah, it's for the portion that is approximately 27 by 8 abutting 1015 Clinton Street. So it is the footprint of the shed. And like John said, there are lots of, encroachments upon the town right of way that have existed. I appreciate the O'Briens bringing us this permit to codify this existing structure that has been there for longer than, whatever. I actually hate to say it, but longer than I've been alive. So, I would say, yeah, this is something we need to do. It's going to put something, down on paper where the town has liability coverage and that shed is taken care of. Then there is the whole other issue of parking and whatever that is a town-wide right-of-way issue. But I think this was a responsible choice by the O'Briens to clear up the footprint of this shed being on town property.
Thanks, Beth. Anyone else?
Another quick question. Does this permit, would this exchange hands if the property is sold?
I'm not sure. Oh, what do you?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Kevin. I don't believe it would.
Yeah,
I think it would
that's
lapse
correct.
when and
when the
when
property
Cheryl and
sells.
Kevin O'Brien give up the property, sell the property.
Yeah, so the new owner would have the responsibility if they wanted to keep the shed in place of applying to the town.
Can it be said that the shed cannot be transferred to new ownership? So that this encroachment would be cleared up upon sale of the property?
So in essence, you would approve, I mean, all you would have to do, I think, is approve the encroachment permit if that's the way that you were going, and then put it on the record that if there's a transfer of the property by the O'Briens, that this council would not be inclined to support, that it should be removed after the fact. So.
Is that what you're getting at, Beth?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm getting. I mean, it's because at some point, it's a shed. And as long as, your owners are understanding that when the property is conveyed, that the rights to have the shed on town property will not be conveyed, according to this council, I think is an important note. That is something worth considering.
But Bo, in light of line item 10 about it being revocable, is it necessary to add that since it's revocable anyway?
So I think what we'd want to do is maybe just put that on the record. I don't believe that it needs to be a part of the motion, Terry, because as you indicated, it's revocable. And then coupled with that, it's pertinent to the O'Briens. They're the applicant. They're the ones that are responsible for getting the insurance. And when that goes away, it would be a triggering event for the permit being no longer in force, in effect. So,
It revokes by default at that point, I guess,
yep.
Okay.
if revokes a word.
Other comments, questions? This is a tricky one, and it's really pertinent to the town as a whole. Especially in an old town like Ridgway. So
I mean, I guess my argument is it's a structure that has been there. The O'Briens have owned the property. The O'Briens are trying to bring their current property into compliance. The reason I bring up being clear that that permit will not, or that we will not necessarily positively entertain another permit from a following owner is that the value of the property is not largely in the shed on town property, and it gives an end to the encroachment upon town property. I think that's a fairly fair way to deal with this encroachment and other encroachments throughout the town. Like, yep, you have it. It was part of what you've been using, in your enjoyment of your property. However, we can't perpetuate that forever. Does that make sense?
yeah, and I think what you're saying is that the logical time to deal with these is at the time of a property transfer.
Yep, because it can be made clear to the new owner, like, hey, we're selling this. This shed is not going to be considered legal. It's a point at which it's not infringing on the current property owner's rights. It's like the potential property owner's property. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get your point. Anyone else?
I think what Beth is saying makes sense to me. So.
Okay. Anybody in the audience want to add a comment or question? Have anything to say on this item?
Hey there. I just have a couple questions about the shed. Can you hear me?
Can you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, this is Joanna Millars, and Eric is with me too.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't know if any of you have driven by, but the shed right now prevents anybody else from using the road because it blocks the whole road. So I'm just curious, if this is passed, are you guys gonna require, because there are business vehicles parked there, are you gonna require commercial taxes to be paid on the land? Are you gonna rent the land? Are the O'Briens gonna be responsible for insuring the land, or is it just gonna be, because they have a garage and a huge shed, and this shed just prevents anybody from using that street. So, and then it creates a driveway for them on the other side and then a parking on the other side. So I'm just not really sure if they want this for their own use or if they're using it to help their business be able to be run out of there.
Well, considering the fact that it's an undeveloped right of way, they're not blocking a road because it's not a road.
Well, it is not actually an undeveloped right of way. It is just undeveloped by the town. The town doesn't
undeveloped right away.
Well, it's maintained. It's just the town doesn't maintain it.
Well, but that's the crux of the matter, is that the town doesn't maintain it. The town hasn't developed.
But someone else maintains it and plows it and levels it out and parks vehicles on it. And so we're downhill of all this. So we get water damage, we get all kinds of stuff just because of the nature of where our property is. We have had fence damage because somebody delivering or whatever couldn't go down their section of North Elizabeth, so they went down ours and hit our fence. So we're just trying to protect what we have, and it seems like this isn't just a little shed on property. I don't know if people have gone by and seen it, but This is it's an entire half of a street that goes along with okaying this shed. It's not just a little shed on town property. It's not your car parked on town property. This is, I mean, I don't feel like the town should be responsible for backhoes. I don't feel like town insurance should have to cover backhoes and work trucks and welding and all kinds of stuff that can happen, which is happening there. So I guess that's my thing is like, how is this in line with the whole community, and how is this fair to all the stakeholders of Ridgway to give someone a half a street? Like, why do they need it? We don't even park vehicles by ours. Other people have been kicked out from parking vehicles over there. Other people have tried to park work trucks on the side closer to us, and they've been told to leave. So I understand the O'Briens have been here for a really long time, and I respect that. I'm a Colorado native, so I've still been here longer than most people in Ridgway. And I don't think that that's an excuse or a good reason to grant somebody something just because they've lived here for a long time. Like, they have a huge shed that was granted, a huge garage. They have, it's a half of a street. It's not a little alleyway. It's a half of a street that is unusable to anybody besides the O'Briens. I think if it's granted, they need to pay for the insurance on it, and they need to pay commercial taxes on it, because that's what it's being used for.
Well, all I can
And
say
I
is that
think
part of
that's
the
fair.
permit process makes them indemnify the town. So that in effect, they are insuring, protecting the town from any insurance issue. Bo?
Yeah, no, that's correct, Mayor. And then coupled with that is that the tax, the property tax is set by the county treasurer. It's not set by the town. And it's based on a number of factors, zoning, use, and not something that would be determined by the town.
So currently, right now, when kids walk over to the ball fields, they walk across Amelia down Clinton, right? So if this undeveloped North Elizabeth Street were really truly undeveloped, they could actually be walking down an alleyway between Clinton and Charles, and then walk down North Elizabeth Street and cross Clinton. And I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, the kids do that all the time, all year, all COVID, and I'm sure that's not going to go away. And we have, it's just a parcel of land. If it were just a shed, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it's an unusable street. Is there, and I know you guys have, we've talked about this before, and that there are places like this all over town, but there are little alleyways in town that people have built little sheds or fences across, but there's nowhere in town where there's an entire half of a street being granted for one property owner. And I guess I want to know, why do they want it? Because I'd like to have the extra lot, half of the street by our house. I could put a big garden there. I thought I was moving to a big gardening community, when we moved here. So maybe in exchange for that, you can give us this other half until 10 or 15 years when the town wants to do something with it.
I'm sorry, that's not the way it works, but Beth, you had your hand up?
I forgot, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I guess here's Susan Lacey is not coming to us saying that this is a problem for school kids walking. So I'm going to say that one's not the end of the world here. Additionally, the permit is only for the footprint under the shed. So as far as any of the rest of this permit doesn't cover that.
So the rest of that would have to be restored, the big berm and all, and because then that would allow people to drive through that part of the property.
No one's we had this, yeah.
That's
No
not
one-
true?
no, that's the state of that street has been like that for 35 years. And long before you came to Ridgway, long before the Bryans came to Ridgway. My guess is that their access to their parking area was there before they bought their property. And isn't that uncommon in towns all over the country where undeveloped rights of way have historically been used because they weren't developed.
Right,
No,
but
there's going to be no requirement for them to.
But here's the deal, is the O'Briens are trying to bring their shed into compliance. Like that
right,
is
but
the
it's not just a shed. That's what I'm trying to
But
say.
the
If it's
permit,
just
Joanna, is only for the shed.
right, I understand that. So then what happens with the berm and the piling and the parking of work vehicles on above the shed? Then what happens is that because by agreeing with the shed, you're agreeing with all of that, and we have water damage because of it, because it's maintained below. So, I mean, do you want us to just, every time we have water damage, just call the town every single time? Because that's what happens. And there are pictures from when our property was first built and their property was, if you see their property, Mother Nature doesn't work like that. Doesn't just have a random drop off unless it's a rock. Like, so there's no graduation anymore. It's all water towards us.
Joanna, Bo would probably tell me not to say this, but there's places all over town where people have to deal with water encroaching on their property from the rights of way next to their property. And it's not the town's fault that happens. I've had to make adjustments to like the entrance on the south side of my property, because when it rains really hard, the water comes down the bar ditch and sometimes it actually flows onto our property there. I'm not going to sue the town over that. I know that I have to build up a little bit on my side to deal with it.
Which we've done, we've done, but it keeps happening. So I want to know, like, I guess my main question is if the shed is approved, which it sounds like you guys are going to agree with that, is the berm and all of that going to be replaced and graded so that the street, at least that other part of that street, can be used by other people besides, because right now it really is the O'Briens and then their next door neighbors that have access to that whole area. Nobody randomly comes and parks a car there to walk into town. It will never happen. It's just the way it looks.
Really,
It looks
not that
private.
big deal if no one can drive through, is what you're saying. If no one's gonna park there to drive into town, it's actually not that big a deal.
So then they park by our house and they bring big work trailers by our house, and we have had damage because of that, is what I'm saying.
So what you're saying then is that we should actually block off the undeveloped portion of Elizabeth Street on Charles Street so that people.
Totally. And we asked you guys a long time ago to do that and you wouldn't do it. And so then now we're here looking like the big scapegoats for this big problem. Like ultimately, this is, it's a bummer. It's a bummer the way this got handled. It's a bummer for us and it's a bummer for the O'Briens.
I don't really want to get, Joanna, I have to stop you there. You're right. It's a major bummer the way this whole thing has all played out, but I'm not going to play any finger pointing games. It's not, right. That's not what this is about. We got an application in front of us. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
If you approve the shed, you're also approving parking of work vehicles above the shed and the driveway below the shed to be used.
Well, the driveway is one thing. Driving across a corner of the right of way to access their parking on their property is something that's existed for as long as as long as I've been here. So I don't think that's a question personally. Parking of work vehicles and other things on the right of way, on the undeveloped right of way, is not part of this application. So no, that's not what we're approving. So that's not the deal. But it's also not saying that we're going to make them tear out the berm or anything like that. Okay, anybody else in the audience have something they want to add, comment, question? Okay, how do we want to deal with this?
I'd like to revisit the permit fee since it's part of the application. Just to see.
Bo, help me out here. I think the thing to do is to deal with the application first, and then we can talk about.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It really would ask that you guys consider the application that's before you, which is the encroachment of the shed.
Sorry, I just think that let's deal with the application, and then depending on which way the application goes, we can talk about. I mean,
Well, it's just that the permit fee is listed on the application, so if you approve the application.
I'd like to address whether or not we're approving the application first, please.
I mean, I'm open to discussion, but I think we should approve the permit and go on the record saying that this permit will not be reinstated for new ownership.
I like that stance. See heads nodding.
Was that a motion?
Well, I wanted to, before I made a motion, I wanted to see if anybody had thoughts, because.
Anybody else want to add anything to this difficult discussion?
No.
Well, then I move we approve the revocable encroachment permit for O'Brien's.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve this revocable encroachment permit that's before us. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
First, Beck,
Aye.
Relly,
Aye.
Brambley,
Nay.
Lakin,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
Okay, it passes 5-1. And then I believe Beth wants to make sure that the record reflects that at least this town council would not be amenable to a resubmittal of this request for a revocable permit for this shed from future property owners of this property. So just let the minutes reflect that, please. And then Terry wants to request that I believe, Terry, you want to have us waive the application fee?
With the reason being that this has been an long and protracted, ordeal for the O'Briens, and they've spent more than $75 in time and effort trying to make, this right and complying with everything that we've thrown at them. So it just seems like a small gesture.
We can discuss this. While I definitely appreciate your thinking on this and don't entirely disagree, I think it would set a bad precedent for us to waive a permit fee for a property owner and have any potential for an appearance of showing preference for one property owner or another. It's the nature of the beast in a small town where you're going to have difficult interactions like this and complicated requests for ways to reconcile the situation. And I just think it's a bit of a slippery slope. So I'm willing to hear other comments, but it's a tricky one. What's everybody else think?
I agree with you, John.
Yeah, I agree with John.
Yep. There too.
Pardon me?
I'm with you as well.
Okay. Terry, you're welcome to argue your case again and even make a motion if you like.
No, I've made my case. It was suggested in the packet that we discussed it, so I opened it up.
Okay. Thank you, and I hope you understand my feeling about it.
I understand.
All right, so that's it on that one. There are other questions, obviously, that were brought up, and I just would again hope that I hope that sooner than later the town can develop a policy for how to deal with our undeveloped rights of way around town, because I think it's really essential. I know it's challenging right now with this property owner dispute that's going on, but needs to be a priority for us going forward. So that takes us to, unless there's anything else on this item, chance to weigh in if there is. That takes us to item number 12, I believe, which is discussion of and direction regarding weed management practices in the town. Preston?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity to have a conversation about weed management or weed control practices here in the town of Ridgway. Over the last, I don't know, month or two, we've gotten a number of questions and some concerns voiced about the town's, I'm using air quotes, no spray policy, and how to best go about effectively managing or controlling the town's noxious weeds of concern. We do have Julie Kolb with Uray County Vegetation Management here. She was kind enough to join us this evening on relatively short notice to talk about some of the work that she does and her team does and the status of weeds in our town boundary. The town does have an integrated weed management and native plant restoration plan. I think it was developed, and I don't know if it was formally adopted, it must have been, but that was back in 2011, I think. It focuses primarily on noxious weed management for public properties in town, and established a protocol for weed management. And I think that's, it may have stemmed from before that, but the no spray stuff is depicted in there. So wanted to mention that plan is on our website. But again, Julie is here, and it may have been a little ill-defined, so I apologize, Julie, but I appreciate you being here to kind of talk about what you do a little bit and then the status of weeds here in town.
Thank you, Preston, and I want to thank the council for allowing me to speak tonight. I took over from Ron Mabry last year in 2020 in January, and I'm very happy to be here. If the council would like, I do have a short presentation I can share if you allow me to share my screen with you.
Yeah, Julie, you should be good to go.
As a noxious weed manager, I know that it's been a very large concern with the population or the citizens of the town of Ridgway. I just want to emphasize to everyone here, I hope you can see my screen before I keep going on here. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Nope.
Let's try it again.
Make sure there you go. Now we can just see your desktop.
I know, unfortunately, I clicked
Okay.
out of that. Hang on a second.
No problem, no problem.
Okay. I want to emphasize that noxious weeds are about a lot more than most people understand. Here's some of the things that noxious weeds do. Okay, they do reduce biodiversity. They promote monocultures. They alter soil properties and soil stability. They are detrimental to wildlife, including things like altering the foraging patterns and altering nesting success. And they alter and degrade nutritional sources for wildlife. Noxious weeds also decrease the value of private property. They make agricultural land unproductive. Many of them are poisonous to cattle and horses, and they cause a significant decrease in water resources. I have put together some maps of some of the infestations that I have mapped in town of Ridgway. I want to emphasize that there are 3 species that I have in the town of Ridgway that are of tremendous concern. One of them being leafy spurge. You may all know that that is a big deal in the town of Ridgway. It is also a big deal on Miller Mesa as well. It is a priority species in the county. And when we prioritize species in the county, that means that the management approach for the county is to eliminate and eradicate these specific species. Another one that you don't see so much here on this map, but that also is spotted knapweed. That's another one that is of a high priority. And then the last one that I'm going to just emphasize tonight, obviously, is that I am seeing a tremendous increase in hoary cress, or what people call white top. I have received several complaints from individuals in Ridgway about weeds in in the right of ways, on private property, and especially leafy spurge coming down some of the drainage ditches. It actually shows up, I'm sorry, it actually shows up here. It is coming down. Somebody please tell me what the street is here that I have my pointer on, that's going
Amelia Street,
north of Amelia Street. Okay, so it is coming down Amelia Street, coming down the street here. It is also, I have found it in Cottonwood Creek in the park. And then there's a larger population up here on the map here. So it is gaining a foothold. And I think at this point that we really should, maybe discuss how we move forward and weave management plans. And I do want to stress, I know that there are a lot of individuals in Ridgway that are concerned about herbicides, and I can make, as many educational programs as you guys would like me to make. I do maintain that as a county weed manager, I try to make as many methods available to everybody that, not just herbicides, biological controls, mechanical controls, but I think that this is getting away from the town of Ridgway. I'm really seeing significant increases. I did organize a county community weed poll a couple weeks ago on May 22nd. I had about 12 volunteers come out and help me for 3 hours at Rollins Park. After about 3 hours of really intense effort, I think we managed to pull about a 12-foot by 12-foot square section after 3 hours with 14
I was
people.
there. I helped do
Yeah,
that.
12 to 14 people.
We didn't make hardly a dent.
Yeah, and then this last map is just a map of the river trail. We did map it from the parking lot there off of Railroad Street all the way past the Dennis Weaver Park. So it is, I think, is getting away from us a little, and I would like to just see if we can put our heads together and maybe manage this a little bit better. In whatever way works. I'm going to skip through a lot of this stuff. I think I have a presentation that contains all of the noxious weeds. It's on the county website and you can access it, and it helps with identification of any weeds if you need to know what's there. I also want to say that I'm available, any landowner who would like to have me come out and identify the noxious weeds. I'm available to you all to help you just not identify them, but also to give you some management advice or tips when way you can deal with this. This is a picture of hoary cress, white top, which is really rearing its ugly head this year. And I've seen a tremendous amount of it around Ridgway. I don't want to keep everybody here too long, but just, you can look at the pictures. Like I said, this is on the county website and it gives you tips on how to identify it. This one is spotted knapweed. This is probably my number 2 concern in the town of Ridgway. Leafy spurge, the one I mentioned earlier in Cottonwood Creek, in it's coming down the county right of ways. I've received a lot of concern over this and met with several of the HOAs on this one and several others. But this is where I'm getting, I think, the most of the people who are concerned on this one. And then we do have Canada thistle here, and each one of these weeds needs to be managed in different ways. Some of these you can pull, some of them you can't. Leafy spurge, for example, can have a tap root that's 30 feet deep. It's not possible to pull it. And leafy spurge is, for everybody's benefit, leafy spurge has a caustic sap in it. If you pull it without gloves on it, you will have severe blisters and possibly some severe eye damage. So I just want to emphasize that if you see that it's not a good idea to try to pull it unless you have gloves on. And Canada thistle is one of those weeds that most of these will reproduce both by seeds and both by roots. But Canada thistle is one of those weeds that should you try to mow it, it usually comes back about 40% worse than it was before. I'll back up here for a second. I wasn't aware until recently when I visited with some of the HOAs, but we do have an oxeye daisy issue in the town of Ridgway. Oxeye daisy generally seems to get a foothold because it was sold in seed packets. And people would spread the seed packets, and that's how it's gotten a foothold. This is also, you know, coming into Ridgway more prominently here too. So those are just a couple of them. Like I said, I have a bigger presentation on the county website. I wanted to emphasize that the county, as it stands right now, is an herbicide-based program. We are trying to move towards more mechanical treatments and processes. We are also investigating the use of maybe more organic herbicides to see if they are efficient. And we are hoping to arrange a demonstration of a possible steam control method, possibly in the future, and maybe looking at seeing if we could get that kind of treatment availability. I also will produce weed management plans for anybody who needs them. And I want to stress again, like I said, I work collaboratively with anyone who needs my assistance. And the county sells native seed mixes for revegetation should anybody request those. And we also have a cost share program as well for any landowner who does want to use herbicides to help them with the cost of the herbicides. This is something that I just want to stress to people that yes, herbicides are safe, and I apply them in every way that's stressed by the Colorado Noxious Weed Act. Like I said, I don't want to go long into this presentation, but I just, I did receive some concerns or maybe some comments from these HOAs that there might be individuals in the Ridgway area who are beekeepers. And I am more than happy to set up some sort of program where somebody who has that concern can email me and let me know. But herbicides are not insecticides. I just want to stress that. And insecticides are what everybody, focuses on when they talk about bees. And I know that neonicotinoids are a very hot topic. I was able to find one source of information that listed that some of the herbicides of concern to any bees. One of them was glyphosate. That's the ingredient in Roundup. Glyphosate is not used by Uray County. The other one was dicamba, and dicamba is used by the county in limited areas. But I am happy to discuss that with anybody who has concerns over either herbicide use in terms of bees or herbicide use in terms of human health. And then in conclusion, I just want to mention that it's very important for private landowners to aggressively manage these weeds. And when I say manage, I want to emphasize that what I look for when I talk about management is a visible reduction in the size of the population every year. And depending on the species, elimination if possible. So the best thing that anybody can do to help me and to, be a good neighbor, I want to stress being a good neighbor is, learn how to identify these weeds, report them to the county if you can, but know that those weeds are not going to respect your property boundaries. They don't care. They're going to grow aggressively and they're going to, to promote damage to the environment. And then just to be aware that when you are recreating, one of the best ways to spread these seeds other than wind is on your clothing and on your pets. So make sure check before you leave the area. That's another way to avoid spreading weeds, your dogs, your pets, and on your clothing itself. And that's all I have for tonight, so I can make this as short as possible. But if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything that you have.
Yeah, Julie, thanks for being here and thanks for presenting. So I have a couple questions to start off. I believe you said that you don't use Roundup. You said you don't use glyphosate, but do you not use Roundup?
I do not. Roundup is actually glyphosate. That so
One
all
and the
the
same.
all the herbicides have a trade name, a brand name, and a chemical name.
Okay.
So Roundup is the brand name, and I think the glyphosate is the it's not the chemical name, but it's another name for what the main ingredient is in Roundup.
Okay. I just know that there's been a lot of concern about Roundup over the years, more in recent years.
I don't use it in the county, just so everybody knows that.
Okay. And then I think one of the things, this isn't so much a question as a comment, that I believe the town in all our subdivision regs and development regs requires that developers and applicants for town permits and such, that if it's relevant, that they deal with the toxic weeds, the noxious weeds on their property. And I think we need to kind of up our game on that. There's a number of parcels, like the Triangle subdivision, for instance, that's potentially in the pipeline now, that we need to just make sure that those guys deal with the noxious weed problem on their property. And anyone else who is developing, I mean, it's sort of a really good opportunity for the town to urge property owners to really do something and make it dent in the noxious weeds.
I've spoke to a number of them, and I don't want to point fingers, but I'm not getting the response I'm hoping for.
Yeah, and you mentioned that to me when we were doing the weed poll a few weeks ago, and I just think it's really important that we make sure that we get these people to understand just how important it is that they, I mean, as property owners, they need to deal with these things, and we have a little bit of leverage with them in the development process to make sure they do it. So I think we should be taking advantage of that. Anybody else have questions for Julie? Comments?
I appreciate the tutorial on the weeds, though. I've got my own share of them to deal with.
I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went through that really fast, but I'm happy to do this again.
And Julie, just so you know, I think with the new county website coming online, the presentation didn't make it.
I wasn't aware of that. I will check that out, though. I was pretty sure it was on there.
There's
It's
a whole
actually
bunch of stuff, but there was one that I was trying to click on and it was just not.
titled Weeds of Uray County.
Oh, I was clicking on the weed identification one and it's not there.
No, the title of it is Weeds of Uray County. It should be there.
And Julie, when we met to pull weeds, looks like Beth's still shaking her head.
I don't even see that on here.
You had some little pocket-sized guides to noxious weeds. Are those available to the public still?
Yeah, I have been placing them at the library, and I think I've taken some down to town hall, but I am happy to put them wherever you, come down again and place those in public places. And if you have any other suggestions as to where they would be really, where they should be available, I'm happy to hear that as well.
I think just making sure there's a good supply at town hall. Interestingly, it just occurred to me, it might not be a bad thing to drop off at all the real estate offices in the area. Make sure that they're, realtors are another good interface with the land buying public, and it's important to educate potential land buyers of the issues they may be inheriting when they buy a piece of ground. So I don't know how responsive they would be, but I couldn't wait to ask. Anybody else? Comments, questions? I guess
The comment about the herbicide versus pesticide, the apiary is under full swing here now. I think there's a reported over 100,000 bees, and of course, it's right next to the community garden. I wonder if that would be a good place to distribute some of this information as well. I think there's a little kiosk or something there by the community garden.
I also have a separate pollinator presentation too, so I can distribute that if anybody's interested as well.
Right. So it seems to me like the crux of this is whether or not we as the town of Ridgway's elected officials would be willing to change our no spray policy and allow some limited use of herbicides to deal with this issue around town.
I think it's also important to note that, we can also designate the certain, if we want to get specific on the herbicides of choice, I'm happy to do that as well. Milestone was written into that document that Preston referenced earlier. That's one of my better ones. It's a very good herbicide and, not a tremendous health concern. So that is an option.
I think
Maybe the best policy for tonight is to just direct staff to work with Julie to update our policy in a way that makes sense. And, the fact that we've stated we are in full support of Julie and her office not using Roundup, trying to use Milestone as much as possible. If anybody else has specific herbicides that you have concerns about or ones that you think are good, or just any other general take on this issue. I mean, as Julie said, Ridgway's always, at least in my tenure, has been proud of its no spray policy. When Danny was running the parks, he was using that high concentration vinegar product, and he swore that it was doing great things in most of the parks. I know he wasn't dealing with places like Rollins Park so much, and probably a lot of the other kind of peripheral areas. But there certainly could be some pushback from town residents if we go too far, maybe.
I think the key to emphasize as we look at updating this policy is that judicious use of herbicides means that we don't have to have overuse of them later. I think, Julie, thank you for showing us the downsides of noxious weeds. And I think we need to emphasize that we're maintaining Ridgway's soil and maintaining Ridgway's biodiversity by using herbicides in very specific places and reasons with certain applications. Because noxious weeds will
I agree. That's a very important part of education, and I'm very aware that there are some individuals who will push back on the herbicide issue. I'm aware of several chemically sensitive people in the town of Ridgway, and I make a lot of effort to make sure I inform them every day where my county truck is. So I'm here, and I'm in support of you guys, and I'm hoping we can get this weed problem tackled.
Preston, are you okay with the general idea I just expressed of council giving you to go ahead to work with Julie on an updated herbicide use policy, basically?
Yes, sir. Yeah, thanks for that. And as long as I, get head nods or other input from other council members, that's what we'll do. We'll work with Julie. Heard her say a couple of times, and in this presentation, and then talked with her over the phone that there's a thought that it's getting a little out of hand here in town, which is the impetus for the presentation here, and definitely want to get ahead of it. So appreciate you all being attentive to what she put forth, and I did see some head nods. So we'll start working with Julie and see how we can get the policy for that weed, the weed management plan updated a little bit, and then get going.
Yeah, and I think that as Beth said, I think that the important thing will be to make sure we educate the public and are very diligent in our efforts to explain why we're changing the policy and make sure that every resident has the opportunity to be notified if and when spraying is happening anywhere near their property. I know of some chemically sensitive people in my neighborhood that are, A, they're probably not going to be happy about any change in policy, and B, they're going to want to make sure they know when if any spraying is going on, say in Cottonwood Park or something like that. Same time, after spending a morning, better part of it, 3 or 4 hours pulling weeds with Julie a few weeks ago, I became very cognizant of what spotted napkins looks like, and I see it everywhere as I ride my bike around town now. So it is a concern, and it's something that we got to get ahead of. So with that, I think we've given staff direction. Anybody have any last minute comments, questions? Okay, thanks, Julie. Appreciate your time, and hopefully we can put a dent in this over the next couple of years.
Thanks, Julie.
All right, that takes us to item number 13, review and action on professional services agreement between the town of Ridgway and Logic Compensation Group for the development of a classification and compensation study. Preston.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So the memo provides a pretty good background on this project. In the end, town staff is recommending that the town enter into a professional services agreement with Logic Compensation Group for the development of a classification and compensation study. Logic comes highly recommended by references, and staff feels they're a good fit for this project. What we're looking for is a review of the current salary market in comparison to the town, and to review existing classification compensation plans, and for someone, in this case, hopefully Logic, to make recommendations for ensuring that our positions are internally equitable and then externally competitive as well. So this is a project that's been budgeted for, and again, Logic Compensation Group was very impressive with what they put forth to the town. So again, staff is recommending that the town enter into that PSA with them.
So I know there's some newish council members, Adam particularly, who may not know the story behind this. Do you guys have any questions about where this is coming from?
Nope, seems to make sense.
Good. Yeah, the idea is just if we have a good sense of what the actual compensation rates are for all of our employees, then we do a better job of making sure they're paid adequately and keeping them happy and keep them on the job. So pretty straightforward, right? Anybody in the audience have any comments, questions? All right, if not, is there a motion?
I move to authorize the town manager to execute the professional services agreement between the town of Ridgway and Logic Compensation Group for the development of a classification and compensation study.
Second.
All right, motion made by Russ and seconded by Kevin, our star tag team tonight. Can we roll call vote?
Where's Beck?
You're on mute.
Still muted.
Aye.
Borelli,
Aye.
Bramley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
Great, thanks everybody, and thanks staff for doing all the legwork to get this to where it is. Appreciate it. That takes us to item number 14, update, discussion, and direction on the alignment of Railroad Street. Again, Preston.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So bear with me because I'm going to try to give as thorough a background as I can. And Joanne knows this, but Joanne's with us this evening, and she will pipe in if I mischaracterize anything or if she just wants to add anything. So the memo I think provides a pretty thorough background, maybe not the like the cover memo, but the staff report that's attached provides some additional background. Hopefully you've had a chance to look through that. For some of you, it should look familiar. But the background's on the Railroad Street Alignment Initiative. Aligning North and South Railroad has been in the what I would call the hopeful pipeline for a number of years now. There was for a long time, decades. So there was hope that it would be completed as part of the ramp project, but it was unable to happen due to, I think CDOT had uncovered some original dedication language that prevented it from happening during that ramp project, which was a good catch by CDOT, but a bummer too. So
it was, just to be real clear in the record, it was a grant, a federal grant that we got at one point to do some improvements in the park. And that grant said that we couldn't ever turn any of that park into street as a result of that and gotten that grant. It didn't have anything to do with the original dedication of the park.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for that.
I know it's nitpicky, but
yeah, that's helpful. So I think it was like mid 2018, summer 2018, there was a workshop. Council discussed the options for realignment with the co-housing development team. I believe it was our town engineer, Joanne, who presented options available for realignment based on the co-housing development team's draft plans at that time. From my understanding, council had expressed some concern that all the realignment scenarios that were presented didn't really achieve the initial goals for realigning the streets. John, anyone, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just going based off of what I've heard. And also the price proposed by the development team was much more than council thought was possible for the town to pay at the time. So the co-housing group sounds like they weren't the biggest fans of some of the options that were presented or all the options that were presented, as they each use more of their land to the south. And so as a result, the consensus was for the co-housing group to carry on with their development plan, making the north side of their development in line with the existing alley between Alpine Bank and the nursery. That afforded the town more time to continue considering options. And then, of course, co-housing to keep working on their project. I think it was at that same workshop, maybe, or similar time, staff was directed to look into getting an appraisal of the right-of-way area. An appraisal of the right-of-way was in the 2019 strategic plan. It wasn't completed. It was carried forward into the 2020 strategic plan. And similar to 2019, staff wasn't able to get an appraisal conducted last year in 2020. So on top of all that, I think it was several years ago, Joanne can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know exactly, I just say several a lot. Town had applied for an access permit from CDOT for a right-in, right-out configuration at the intersection of Highway 62 and South Railroad Street. That's where the coffee joint is, as well as a full movement access permit for the development of a road directly to the south of North Railroad Street. That permit was pulled to further explore and potentially pursue the alignment initiative. So as Joanne really has been the person working with the co-housing development team and CDOT on various project issues like storm drainage, staff, we learned recently that those access permits have now lapsed, and I think they've already been renewed the maximum number of times. So the town would need to reapply for those permits, which Joanne mentioned may require a new traffic study to be undertaken. So I do see, I think there's some members of the co-housing development team here. Would love to get their perspective on stuff. Curious to know what they're thinking in terms of getting an answer from the town on this alignment initiative is. The town would need to find funds to purchase that, the additional right of way and also to build the road. Given the state of real estate values, that, if an appraisal was conducted, there's a good chance it would produce a value that's exorbitant, but that remains to be seen. That's just a thought on my end. So, we're looking for council direction on this whole initiative and whether the town should reapply for those access permits to further pursue this alignment initiative. I hope that makes sense. I apologize for talking so long. Joanne, do you have anything to correct me on or add?
No, I think you've got that about right. We did renew, I think you're allowed to renew twice, and that had happened, and the permits expired this month and can't be renewed, but we could reapply. As Preston mentioned, the access permit person at CDOT said she thought that they would probably require a new traffic study.
Sorry, require what?
That we do a traffic study again.
Okay.
They feel like the traffic has changed over the last few years.
I think it probably has. Did you have anything else, Joanne?
Not
specifically. I would like to weigh in just because this is something that I've seen come before us numerous times, all the way back to the 80s when I first got involved with the Planning Commission. And it's been something that I've always had as a priority personally to get accomplished, the alignment of Railroad Street, because I guess most of you have experienced that what happens when someone's trying to turn left, going west, trying to turn left into like the Cimarron Coffee parking lot, and somebody's going east trying to turn left onto Railroad Street, and you have to do one of these. It's really dangerous, and I don't think anybody wants us to see those two intersections, the opposite sides of Railroad Street that aren't aligned as of today, to be right in, right out only. People aren't going to abide by that because, like everything else, if you get used to things being one way and all of a sudden the law changes on how that intersection is treated, you're just going to forget, you're going to ignore, you're not going to know. And that just leads to more confusion and more likelihood of an accident, in my opinion. So I guess my recollection of the last discussion we had kind of in the workshop with the co-housing folks was the last sort of illustration in Preston's staff report where co-housing would build a road that kind of aligned with the alley essentially of Block 38 and the alley by the bank and the garden center on the east side. And then the town would somehow acquire and help develop the street that would become the new railroad. There were other iterations between that and the other illustrations in the staff report. There was a kind of a long curve that went from essentially Hyde and South Railroad to line up with North Railroad. That took up even more space of the Warlord property, the co-housing property, so it wasn't necessarily a good option. But there've been numerous options over the years, and I personally think we should continue to try and figure out a way to make this happen, because if we don't, we're going to end up with a pretty untenable situation of having right in, right out only on both sides of South and North Railroad as they are now. And I wonder if there might be some opportunities for some funds through the, all the money that's coming out of ARP, and the state's got all sorts of new transportation dollars. There seems to be a kind of an amazing surplus of public monies right now available to communities like Ridgway to do things. I don't know if this would qualify or not, but it certainly is. It's a critical issue, and I'd like to see us find a solution that is something other than just leaving it as it is indefinitely. And I know that staff.
Hey, Mayor Clark, not to further convolute the issue, but being an employee of San Miguel Power and many staff coming out of North Railroad trying to go east out of that intersection during rush hour, it sometimes takes 10 to 15 minutes to turn left right there. I'm wondering I'm sure this has been considered before, and apologize for not having a history of it, but what about a roundabout in that spot?
The oblong about.
Staff report references the oblong about.
So maybe that's not a new idea, apparently. Yeah.
It's not, it's in the staff.
Tessa and I were really proud of ourselves about 2 years ago.
Roundabouts are awesome.
They are. They take a lot of property. And that's why we, as you see in the staff report, it refers to the oblong about, because the idea was that it would have to be kind of more egg-shaped
Yeah.
east-west and not take up so much. It couldn't take up any of the park, and it couldn't take up, I don't think the Second Chance folks are going to give up any of their property. Same for the co-housing folks. So it would have to take as little property as possible on either side of the highway and go up and down the highway some. They're very expensive to build. I mean, I think that's the ultimate solution, but that's probably the most expensive solution too.
It probably is, but it's also one of those things. I got to agree with Terry, trying to get through there, get north to south or get north headed east. And even if they go with a right on South Railroad, which has its own issues, you know, there's not a good way for people to get headed west other than looping around the block. So I think the oblong about or roundabout, whatever you want to call it, is the right answer.
It's a lower carbon footprint solution.
It's also perhaps our most long-term solution, because I think anything else we come up with to placate CDOT in 2021, I see an oblong about or a roundabout being a solution that lasts for us for a lot longer.
It avoids a street light, of course.
And it's
the only two streetlights in Ouray County. So
that was what has been mentioned a number of times. That would be the second streetlight location in Ridgway. For years, I thought it would be Lena Street, but no, I think if it ever happens and Railroad Street were aligned, that it would probably either be a roundabout or a streetlight, a stop.
Yeah, and CML's got 30 million available for projects right now, as well. That was or not CML, CDOT.
Yeah.
And also, a roundabout would function as some speed control in an area of town where people walk.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
Could the town park corner there give up a little space to help solve the property solution, the real estate issue?
No, because of the thing I mentioned before that kept the original proposal as part of ramp was to make a slow curve from about where the current parking lot entrance is through the park and line up with South Railroad. And someone, I don't remember if it was CDOT or it probably was, because they do such in-depth review of everything whenever their money's involved in a project. They discovered that there had been some sort of federal grant that had been used to either build a playground or something in Hartwell Park many years ago, back in the 90s, I think, early 90s. And that one of the stipulations of that grant was that none of the property that the grant was used on could ever be turned into a street, turned into anything but park, basically. So bottom line is we can't give up any of the park. Now, we can probably give up some right of way that would be slice a little bit off the corner there, but that's about it, I think. So it's tricky. But I agree. I think a roundabout of some sort is our best solution.
I mean, realistically, what are our other options other than the right in, right out, and then hope that people follow it?
Well, and even with the right in, right out, in order to make that work, you'd probably have to turn that center turn lane into a median or something like that, wouldn't you?
Yep.
If you're going to spend that kind of money, why not just put in a roundabout?
And not to belabor the point, but it has become such an issue with employees of SMPA that we're letting people off 10 minutes early so they can avoid that spot. Isn't that ridiculous? Literally, because if they get stuck at that spot, they're there for 15 minutes, idling their cars and belching out carbon and all that crap. Excuse me, all that stuff. But it is definitely a problem that becomes a material issue that now I'm sensitive to, although I don't ever have to go through that spot during rush hour, thank God.
Well, and rush hour is a lot of the day these days, and those of us who've lived here any length of time. And there've been many years now where approaching Highway 62 from any side street and trying to turn left is extremely problematic all the time. So, you know, that intersection is not unique to that, but it gets a lot more traffic. So that's
exception of Lena.
yeah. Well, Preston, I think you're hearing, I mean, the last thing I was going to say when I was going on and on at the beginning was that your recommendation, considering all the above, the opportunity to create a new South Railroad Street that lines up with North Railroad Street does not seem like something the town should continue to pursue. Staff would like direction from council. I think you're hearing the direction that we'd like you to pursue is not to stop pursuing some sort of alignment, but to maybe, I mean, I think there's no better time, at least in the last 5 or 10 years, probably, where there's funding out there that is literally kind of being begged to find projects to use for it. Now, this isn't by any means a shovel-ready project, so that's probably our biggest challenge. But I think we should start the discussion with the powers that be about what a problem that intersection is. And as Russ points out, you know, even if they go to right in, right out, that the only way it's going to be safe is if they do a median there so that people can't go left. And that's a huge expense that doesn't make any sense if they could throw some more money at it and make a roundabout. So hopefully that's not too discouraging news for you as far as having another big project to put on your list, but
no, it's totally fine. And thank you. But just to recap, the direction I'm hearing is to work with CDOT, since, you know, 62 is obviously their right of way, on an idea of putting some sort of roundabout or oblong about there to achieve what we're all kind of talking about here. My question, I have a question for Joanne on those access permits. If the direction is simply to work with CDOT and see how we can maybe get this as a priority project, you know, somewhere in the near future, or at least in their pipeline, do we need to get any access permits to achieve that?
I don't think so. I think the next step would be to talk to CDOT about the minimum amount of right-of-way and road width they would require to be able to do an oblong or roundabout, and see if it's mathematically possible, and then get back to you. I think the town is able, we could apply for Main Street revitalization money. There are, I think, the first round of the larger pool, the deadline has already passed, but I think there's a second pool or third pool coming that we could look at. I just sent an email to the lady that coordinates smaller projects, either have 150 or 250,000 maximum, which would not be enough to make a substantial dent. But if there is Main Street revitalization money, and there is some way we could figure out how to fit it into the space without having to go under the Uniform Act to acquire property, I think that would be worth pursuing. If, you know, if they're going to say we got to have 200 feet diameter, that's probably a dead deal. That's half a block.
Thanks, Joanne. So I guess going back to what I was saying, is that the direction I heard to start those conversations with CDOT to talk through pretty much everything Joanne was just talking through?
Yep.
Great. Appreciate that. Soft thumbs up and some heads nod. That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Like I say, it's been certainly for the almost 40 years I've been here, it's been discussed over and over again. The dream was always to have it go right through the old railroad property, AKA the Warlock property, AKA the co-housing property. Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't give anyone who's here from the co-housing group an opportunity to speak. Do you guys have anything you want to add, or any comments or questions on this? See, Tom, you're not a member of the co-housing community. Go ahead. Tom?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I didn't say go to co-housing. I'm sorry. Go
Okay,
ahead.
go ahead. I just was kidding. I was joking. I saw
Oh.
your hand go up. I saw your hand go up as I was asking for comments or questions.
Okay, well.
You've got a comment. Go ahead.
Okay, I've got actually 5 points, 5 or 6 points, and I'm going to have to digress to historical use or intent of that property just because it was left out. And I think an important part of it originally, when Tom Warlick was developing that property, he went along with the town and with our transportation plan at that time, which called clearly for Railroad Street to be the main arterial for north-south traffic in the town of Ridgway. And as it went south, it was going to line up with 26. Excuse me?
23, County Road 23.
23, excuse me, yes. But it was part of the transportation plan. He made a complete set of PUD development plan and then was asked to change it, of which he did. At some point with a new and different council, he quit, later sold the property. The next thing that happened, which now the assessment goes into, which is correct, it was going to be straightened out by going into Hartwell Park. And at the last time, it was through RAMP who CDOT found out that this wasn't going to work. And so I want another big point here in my mind is we are at this point specifically because this wasn't routed as a PUD. Had this co-housing been a PUD as opposed to just running through more as a use by right, I think we'd have had more another chance or another bite at the apple to attempt to get that north-south transportation plan. I don't even know if the town today has a unified transportation plan, but I just see, the main thing that I'm seeing is that this is a squandered opportunity that we had squandered in the past. And I actually don't think that straightening it out makes any sense or is not as imperative any longer, just because all it's going to do is curve a street around and run railroad into Hyde. That doesn't sound, I guess I don't understand how that is a great help to the town. The last thing I just wanted to say on this whole thing is I really think we need a full-time planner sooner than later to keep an eye on this exact type of thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. I saw Nick Grafe mute and show his video. Nick, did you want to add something?
I was just going to say, John, that we heard that this was going to be discussed tonight at the council, and tuned in to find out what was being said about it. We really don't have anything to present at this point.
Okay, just wanted to give you an opportunity to weigh in on anything that we'd said that you may feel one way or the other about. So it is, as Tom points out, it's been a long, crazy, a long winding road, no pun intended. And while some of what Tom said I agree with. Some of it isn't accurate. The Warlick thing, I could tell you a gory long story about all that, but and Tom, I also think, not to go down the rabbit hole, but we're not talking about necessarily winding it around to Hyde Street now. So the problem is it's a mess. It's not, it's always been a potential mess, and the potential just keeps getting greater as we get more and more people moving to town and more traffic. And I really think the idea of a roundabout is probably our best hope. Not sure whether we can pull it off, but that's what council has decided to try and pursue. And we appreciate you guys from the co-housing group being here to hear our discussion and to weigh in if you want.
Yeah, what I would say is that we are very happy to talk with Preston anytime that he wants to talk this issue and explore possibilities. Why, we're certainly open to that.
Great, thank you. All right, anybody else? I think Preston and the rest of the staff has direction enough on this, so we can move on to the next item, which is review and action pertaining to order extending the declaration of a local disaster in and for the town of Ridgway.
Thanks, Mayor. So the emergency declaration for the town of Ridgway is slated to expire tomorrow. Staff has prepared an order extending the emergency declaration for you all to consider. And the way it's currently written, if you approve it, the order would be extended to July 15th, I think it is, unless the date is modified by you all. And so given where we're at with the overall response to the pandemic at the national, state, and local levels, staff does not feel a major or a pressing need for the order to be extended any further. That shouldn't preclude you all from extending it if deemed necessary. Some places are continuing to extend their emergency declarations, and others have let them expire or formally rescinded them. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Preston, the only question I've got is I agree. I don't think we need to continue to extend this, but the only reason we might is if there was any potential funding that we still needed to be in a state of emergency in order to receive some of that federal funding. Is that still the case or not at this point?
I don't believe that's the case at this point. Really good question. My understanding when the pandemic started and municipalities, counties across the nation started to put these emergency declarations into effect, it was for a variety of reasons. One of them was for FEMA to be eligible for FEMA disaster relief funds, and the like. But now that's not the case, and we received our coronavirus relief funds through one of the stimulus bills, a number of months ago, which we've expended the large majority of those funds. A lot of communities have, and then with the American Rescue Plan, a huge amount of money was allotted to local governments. I don't remember the full amount, but that money is coming down the pipeline. We're characterized as an NEU. I'm forgetting what that acronym stands for. A non-entitlement entity. And so we just received guidance the other day from DOLA and the Treasury, the final guidance from the Treasury, and some word from DOLA about how those funds are going to be delivered. Ridgway's allotment is $260,000. I think just north of that, $261,000, which we can use for a variety of purposes. I don't have the guidance memorized, so sorry to be long-winded. That's not what you were asking about, but I don't believe if you all were not to extend the declaration, it would impede the ability of the town to be eligible for funding, or if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it is. That answers my question. Thanks.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Preston, I have a question. Are we the last holdout in the county? Are there any other entities that have emergency declarations, whether it be county or the city of Uray or other nearby municipalities?
The county still has theirs in effect. I don't know about the city. Beth, do you know by chance, since you work?
I haven't heard. I was hoping you'd tell me.
Yeah, no, I'll reach out to Silas and ask.
I mean, I do think, with Uray County's vaccination levels and we're kind of not in the emergency situation anymore. I mean, there are certainly priorities in recovery and ongoing public health efforts, but we're not in a state of emergency.
And I like Russ's question, notwithstanding any, sacrificing any funding opportunity as a result.
That was a great question, Russ.
Okay.
Great. Do we need a motion to just let it go or not approve extending? What do we need to do here?
If the majority of council is in favor of letting the current emergency declaration expire, then I don't believe any action is necessary. Bo, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct, Preston. It would just expire on its own merit.
I'm comfortable.
I move we do nothing.
I'm comfortable.
Yeah. We don't need a motion, so I'm gonna let that motion die. Yeah, as it says in the staff report, the declaration has been extended several times and now set to expire on June 10th. So as of tomorrow, it will expire quietly and under its own weight. That's it for that item. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Takes us to item number 16, review and action on Town of Ridgway modified electronic participation policy for regular and special meetings.
So we've modified the electronic participation policy for you all to consider so that the council and other committees of the town can utilize the policy when there's not an emergency declaration in place, which it sounds like that's very soon. So the policy encourages council members, committee members, town staff to attend meetings in person, but when that's not possible, the policy allows for attendance electronically. And then the policy also goes on to state that members of the public have to be provided adequate opportunity to participate in the meeting conducted via electronic participation that's commensurate with opportunities afforded at in-person meetings. So it does address the public participation piece. So.
Okay. So is there any other comments, questions on this one?
I think it's a good idea.
Yep. Agreed.
This is one of those like silver linings that came out of the pandemic that we now have an electronic participation policy.
Exactly.
So I move to adopt the Town of Ridgway modified electronic participation policy for regular and special meetings.
Second.
Second.
Wow. Never heard so many seconds. I don't know who beat the gun on that one. I'm going to give it to Kevin. He's all night. Motion made. We have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Beck,
Aye.
Raleigh,
Aye.
Grambly,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Schuyler,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
Okay. Great, that takes care of that one. Moving at a good clip now. Takes us to item number 17, an emergency ordinance number 05-2021, emergency ordinance of the Town of Ridgway, Colorado, extending temporary amendments to the sign regs. Another COVID-related one.
That's right, another COVID-related one. So not last May, but I guess a year ago, May 2020, you all adopted temporary amendments to the sign regulations by way of emergency ordinance 02-2020. That ordinance relaxed certain signage requirements for businesses. Normally, a business has to apply for a sign permit when installing a portable sign within the town right away. And then given the state of the pandemic, at that time, the emergency ordinance waived the need for a sign permit application to be submitted with applicable fee for those portable signs. That emergency ordinance was extended, well, it was subsequently extended a few times, I think it was, and is now slated to expire June 10th. That's tomorrow. So there's a series of options outlined in the memo for you all to consider. But again, similar to what I stated for related to the emergency declaration, staff does not feel a strong need to extend this any further.
Yeah, it seems like if we're not going to extend the emergency order, then this kind of would go the same way as that.
Follow suit, yeah.
I guess the only other question would be is if we decided to extend it to show some goodwill towards the businesses in helping to recover from the pandemic. So give them an opportunity to run through the season potentially to, again, assist them in helping them promote their businesses and do what recovery they can. So maybe not directly tied to the disaster or emergency, but to helping to recover from the pandemic. I could see extending it for that.
Russ, I thought about that, but I'm afraid that sets a precedent of, well, why can't we just do this all the time? I thought about trying to give maybe, because it would expire, is it tomorrow? Giving them a week or two to make sure we get signs pulled down, but I don't think we're going to have any lack of people coming through town this year. And I think extending this sign ordinance beyond the emergency says, well, it's fine. It's okay if we have these signs all the time. And I don't think that was our intention.
So a little bit of a rebound buffer might be appropriate, but keeping with the precedent that it's, this was related to the original emergency declaration.
Yeah, I just don't want to be like, oh my God, rip everything down tomorrow, it's over, giving us some time to make sure that businesses know that things have changed.
And Preston's walking around with a big billy club.
Oh, that would be Shane.
Let's send Sprocket.
I hate to be the devil's advocate here, but I want to point out that these kinds of signs are something that business community has been asking for years and years and years. Their sign code has never allowed them. And I think the question we need to ask ourselves is, we've had them for more than a year now. Has it really been a problem? Has it really bothered anybody that we've had them? And maybe what we need to do is change the sign code so that they're allowed. Something to consider.
Temper it somehow,
yeah. As somebody again who's been involved with all aspects of town controversies for many years, the sign code's always problematic. It's people always want more signage, and I'll be the first to say that too many businesses think that a bigger sign is going to make all the difference in whether their business is successful or not, and it's really not true. Especially now more than ever, your online presence, your ability to be found on Google Maps and Yelp and all that is much more important than the size of your sign. But at the same time, again, these little sandwich signs that just point out the Colorado boys down the street here, or right here, don't walk by and miss it. Have they really turned out to be a huge problem?
To that end, John, some of those signs, one, I've seen them blow over in the wind, and two, there's no uniformity. There's some of them kind of, without being too judgmental, a little bit junky looking. I mean, we have a standard with the signs that we do allow. Maybe if we're going to go to this level, that we should, and I hate to add more work to it, but create a standard for the form and function of those signs.
So are we saying that we want to consider amending the sign code, which seems like a whole separate discussion than letting this expire? Now we can extend this and say we want to revisit sign code next month or in August or whatever and kind of let it ride.
That's kind of what I'm seeing as the option. Yeah.
I like that option. Let's extend it as a courtesy and then give us time to make changes to the sign amendments.
Well,
Does that mean I was gonna
Sorry.
say, do we have to extend for 2 months then? Because unless we do an emergency sign revision next month, then it wouldn't be taking effect until August, right?
Yeah, and I'm not sure we're gonna get a draft ordinance ready this month either. And just to be clear, I want to make sure you understand, I wasn't saying we needed to take any evasive action and actually do a major revision of the sign code. I just was asking us to consider it. And, you know, whether typically what we've done in the past is when there's a question like this, we refer it to the planning commission. I guess there's a part of me that could see, and again, with all respect to your comment, Beth, maybe extend it for the summer season, extend it through August, refer it to the planning commission for them to just decide whether or not it's worth considering an amendment to the sign code that would allow those signs permanently with some standards, as Terry mentioned, or say, no, we don't want to open that can of worms, and at the end of August, it's going to expire for good. That might be my suggestion.
I'm in support of that.
Yeah, I think we're supportive of that, and I know you weren't trying to force that, but I think that's probably what we need to look at is have planning commission review this or the planners and then take another look at whether we want to modify it. And I agree with you with extending through August on this one.
Preston, do you have any thoughts on the discussion so far?
No, nothing substantive. I think what I've heard so far in terms of direction, of course, we'll need a motion, is to extend this through August, through the summer months, and then have our planners and ultimately planning commission mold this over in relation to potentially amending the code down the line.
And that suggestion isn't making you pull your hair out right now?
It is not. No, not at all. It's fine.
Okay.
Well,
So what's the motion? Where is it?
So I think it's that we move to approve the emergency ordinance extending temporary amendments to the town sign regulations. As written, this would extend the temporary amendments to August 31, 2021, I think is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And then to ask staff to work with planning commission to review the temporary sign ordinance.
I just
What was that date you said, Russ? August 31st?
August 31, 2021.
Yeah.
End of August. Or
I
August
just
30.
heard Russ to make that motion, didn't I?
Yeah, nicely done, Russ. I'll second Russ's motion.
Is that good with you, Preston?
Sure.
You got the details? Good. So roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Beck,
Aye.
Relly,
Aye.
Brambley,
Aye.
Bacon,
Nay.
Skylar,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
Great, thanks, everybody. Sorry to throw a wrench in there, but I think it's worth discussing. All righty then, that takes us to some letters of support requests. First one is item number 18, request for a letter of support from the Erie County Historical Society regarding their request for funding. We did one of these, I can't remember, it was like maybe 6 months ago, Preston, and the request was turned down. So the president of the Historical Society reached out to me by email a few weeks ago asking if we would resubmit the letter, and that's what's before us tonight. I don't see any reason. I'm thinking we'd probably be supportive of this. What do you think?
Yeah, this looks great.
Yep, I'm supportive of it.
Yep, good.
You're here.
So yeah, do we need a formal motion on this?
I think so.
I move I move we approve the signing of a letter in support of Ridgway Historical Society's request for funding.
Second.
Russ, I've got it. Motion by Beth, seconded by Russ. Roll call, please.
Council members Beck,
Aye.
Borelli,
Aye.
Brambley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
All righty, thank you. Number 19 is the letter of support for the Uri Recreation and Conservation Alliance. In all honesty, Preston, I don't remember the details of this. Can you help me out?
Yeah, no problem. So Uri County recently submitted a funding application to, at least I think they submitted it to Colorado Parks and Wildlife's new program called the Colorado Outdoor Regional Partnerships Funding Program to launch what's being coined the Uri Recreation and Conservation Alliance. The acronym is ORCA. A number of partners and stakeholders, including Uri County, City of Uri, Ridgway State Park, Uri Ranger District, the Bureau of Land Management, and there's some others, are coming together to develop a new collaborative effort to help the community address critical issues that include growing tourism and visitation in conjunction with growing conservation, wildlife, and agricultural needs. They came together and talked about submitting a funding application, and they, in all honesty, they just forgot to include the town. And it was like no one's fault. They just kind of forgot to include us. And so after they had met, they had developed an application. I think, and John, you might know, someone had just said, what about the town of Ridgway? And they said, oh man. So then they reached out to us and gave us the background. So the application is requesting funding, which includes a matching funds component to contract with a facilitator to provide immediate coordination and facilitation support. The town hasn't been asked to provide any sort of financial support for this application. And all that's being requested is the town's support and commitment to being a partner in ORCA.
Any comments or questions from council on this?
Don't see any downside.
Yeah, I think it's a good move considering the increased pressure with all the folks coming into town.
So again, I think we need a motion to authorize me to sign this letter.
I move to approve the signing of the letter of support for Uri Recreation and Conservation Alliance.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Could we have a roll call, please?
Council members Beck,
Aye.
Borelli,
Aye.
Brambley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
Great, thanks, everybody. So that takes us to the last one of these, and then I think we have a couple more items that were added, 2 or 3. This is regarding the food pantry. I hope you're all aware that the Uri County Food Pantry had kind of a awesome thing fall in their lap. Essentially, they were looking for new digs again, which they've done a number of times over the past decade or so. And then they had some very generous, essentially angels from above in the form of Rich and Karen Avery from Uri, who owned the coffee roaster place in the industrial park at the corner there across from Sunset Automotive. And they offered the food pantry the property at an extremely reasonable price given today's real estate market. And the food pantry had a pretty good chunk of money set aside, and now they're in full fundraising grant receiving mode. So Bev Angern reached out to me asking if me and council could draft a letter of support in their in-draft grant request that they submit. So that's what this is about.
This is a great thing. See no issues with it and think we should move forward.
Agree. Thanks for the backstory on that.
Yeah, I urge you all, if you're able to give them a little financial support, it's a really cool deal. Permanent home in a great spot.
I move we sign the letter of support for Uray County Food Pantry.
Second.
Second.
Okay, great. Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Beck,
Aye.
Borelli,
Aye.
Ramley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Aye.
Great, thanks, everybody. All right, that takes us to at least 2 items. Pam, what was the first one you had?
Was the
Right
a
event.
special event
Oh, right, the special event.
approval.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So I spoke to a parent of one of the participants in Voyager today who's organizing with the kids an event that they want to put on in Hartwell Park and use the stage on July 25th for a Pride event. And they don't have their time exactly down, but they're thinking it'll be like 2 to 8 because they're going to have a local band, one of the kids, local kids bands going to play on the stage. And as we were talking about it, I realized that we needed to get council approval for that because it's the first time they've had an event like that.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments, concerns?
There's a lot of kids involved in driving this effort, in planning and advocating for it. And I think this is super exciting that they're bringing a Pride event to Uray County.
I agree. Tara Wick is one parent who's reached out to me to sit down and talk with the kids about planning, and she's reached out to Shane for his support. So they're doing a great job of covering all their bases and approaching it the right way. So I think we should definitely support this.
And if you can come and support them on the 25th, you should come down and do it because they'll be psyched.
Even better, yeah.
Awesome.
Did I say June 25th?
July.
I meant July.
July.
Okay, good, good.
Because that would have been a day before Pam Craft Day.
Right. We don't want to have that conflict.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move to approve the use of the stage at Hartwell Park for a Uray County Pride event.
Second.
Second.
Great. Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, I'm writing down. Council members Beck,
Aye.
Borelli,
Aye.
Grambly,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
Great, thanks, everybody. I think the second one was Beth wanting to discuss fire restrictions.
Yeah.
A smart move.
We've already seen smoke drifting up from Arizona. There's some fire activity happening over in Utah. I just think by the time we roll around to our July meeting, moving to stage 1 regs might be a little bit behind the 8 ball, and we may be looking at stage 2-ish regs by then. But I just thought it was something we should proactively consider instead of waiting until we see fire activity in our region.
I think it's a great point. My only question would be, would actually say enacting stage 1 restrictions tonight be considered overreacting by some and not treated well? Should we instead maybe kind of pre-authorize staff to enter stage 1 at such time as they see that it's necessary? With that,
I mean, that'd be fine with me. I just think we need to.
I agree.
Waiting until July is not going to be good.
And I could probably support enacting stage 1 restrictions tonight. I think it's that serious, and I think it's that important given the severity of the drought, the smoke we saw all the way from Arizona yesterday morning.
Not to mention how dry it is. You notice the little rain or the big rain we had the other day, puddled everywhere. It never absorbed into the ground. It just stayed on the surface. It's amazing.
But the crazy thing was we had rain Saturday and Sunday, right?
Yeah.
First day was, at least at the official reporter across the street from my house, 0.05 inches of rain, and the second day was 0.15. So between those two downpours, we
Seemed
got
like it was hot, yeah.
0.2 of an inch. I've been saying that for years. When it seems like we got a really good rainstorm, it's probably 0.2. It's just crazy. So, I mean, that's why I stayed on the street, is it really wasn't that much in the end. But the point is, it's serious. So I'm open either way. I think, like I said, that probably, well, Preston, let me ask you, would you feel comfortable us sort of pre-approving a stage 1 designation with at your discretion, or would you rather we take the firm stand without putting you on the spot to do it?
Thanks. And I'll look to Bo. I do believe the code affords the manager the ability to promulgate fire restrictions subject to council ratification. So, and if that's the case, then
we could pre-ratify.
I think that achieves kind of what you're talking about. So,
yeah,
of course, that's something that we're going to be evaluating every day throughout the summer, and definitely want to be in line with other community partners and stuff and jurisdictions. So, Beth, thanks for bringing this up, and we can just continue this conversation if you all are okay with it. Well, not continue the conversation, but just stay in touch about what we're thinking over the course of the next month. And if we all kind of think it needs to happen, again, the manager, I believe, Bo turned his video on, so you can just let me know. But okay, thumbs up. But if you guys aren't comfortable with that route, then it's your prerogative to promulgate now.
Can ratification occur between meetings through a special? Yeah. Okay.
We don't even have to, right?
Wouldn't need a
can do
special
it.
meeting. What we're saying is that actually what Preston just said, and Bo gave the thumbs up on, is that Preston can actually instigate stage 1 or whatever stage restrictions, and then get council to ratify it at our next meeting. What I'm suggesting we do is kind of pre-ratify, if that's appropriate, just because we know it's that important.
Yeah, and it's coming.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just pulled up the GMUG page, and the west end of the county is already considered high fire danger, and everybody else is in moderate. So we can expect that will likely change here shortly. So thanks. I just wanted to make sure it was on our radar. I know we don't have a ton of land area in town, and we don't have a ton of the campfires, but I think it's important that we make our move and act, because it's the right
thing. It's a good statement to make, to just keep people alerted to how serious it is. So I guess what I'm asking is that someone make a motion to, Bo, correct me if I'm wrong in how I state this here, to basically pre-approve the town manager to promulgate stage 1 fire restrictions at such time as he thinks it's required, even if it's before our next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. As per Preston's comment, he's got the authority to issue stage 1, and then it would just be ratified by the council at your next.
Okay, so let's just do that. We don't need a motion tonight then.
I think we just want to emphasize, I think the goal is to emphasize the fire awareness and safety and the concerns that the council has. So,
yeah.
And I see Erin on the call tonight, so I would just ask that in her report on the town council meeting tonight, she mentioned that we feel really strongly that the fire danger is really severe this year, and we want everybody to be aware of that, and we're prepared to institute fire restrictions as soon as the conditions warrant, and we don't expect that to be very long from now. So thanks. The third item, Russ, you had something, I forget what it was.
Yeah, I drove by the Space to Create area today, and I know that they were planning to put up that temporary fencing and the blue and the green screen through it and all that. What I wasn't aware of is that they're actually coming out into Laura Street and taking half of Laura Street. Given that and driving by the area, it seems like something needs to be done as far as signage. The stop sign is back where it normally sits, and you can't see anybody coming from the north. if you're headed west until you're actually halfway through the intersection. Similarly, it's one lane traffic there. So I think there needs to be some sort of temporary stop sign put up there for the westbound traffic, and then some sort of sign for both the north and the south, advising of the one lane road with two-way traffic. 'Cause it
That's
just
a
seems
really
like
good-
a disaster area right now.
That's a really good point. I was going to say, I think we need to, we almost need to make it, I don't know if we put in temporary four-way stop there, if that would help. I certainly think one solution would be to mark it as, put a do not enter sign for people going north on Laura, starting at the fence, and just say it's one way going south. And just notify the neighbors of that. That doesn't seem like a terrible hardship.
It almost needs to go the other way, John, having
Is it?
driven through there. Because if you're coming north, you can see the other three outlets. If you're going south, you can't see the traffic coming from the east. If you're me, you just kind of drive out to the west and look, slowly. But yeah, it's actually the southbound traffic that has no ability to see who's coming. Northbound and east and west can all see each other.
Well, again, I think, go ahead.
Can we just ask Preston to get some clarification on how long it's going to happen? Because I can watch them from my porch and I've been like, woo, stuff's happening. And they were pulling out sidewalk. So I actually don't know how long they plan to be that far out in the street. So I think this might be an appropriate place to ask Preston to work with the contractor to come up with a solution.
Yeah, thanks, Beth.
Yeah, go ahead, Preston.
Yeah, no, thanks. So that's been the plan for quite a while, closing down half of, or making Laura a one-way as part of the building permit process. And John, you were part of those meetings with ArtSpace and talking through what the traffic management plan would be. I'll share with you, Stryker asked me the other day if we'd be amenable to closing the entirety of Laura. And I said, no, absolutely not. We need to adhere to what the approved traffic plan per the building permit. But Russ, you bring up a good point because, I live right there too. And, I've noticed, and it's all happened really, really fast. They're starting to move dirt and tear up that sidewalk. And we're trying to accommodate moving fixtures and stuff. But we do need to make sure that, the stop sign is visible. All the applicable stop signs are visible, and some temporary signage definitely needs to be deployed so that we avoid any sort of, a disaster. So I'll, as Beth was kind of alluding to, I'll work with Mark Klutz and then Brian Cahill, I think is his last name. He's the superintendent at the site for the project. He's been great communication wise. We'll work with them to find some solutions to improve that.
Great,
Cool.
thanks. That was going to be my suggestion, just have staff work with the developer. To answer your question, Beth, I think unfortunately the fence is going to stay up for a while because they're going to need it for staging as the construction proceeds.
Honestly, I don't care. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's actually worse when I'm walking than when I'm driving.
Well, and I was on my bike through there today, and you definitely have to, even on a bike, you have to kind of slowly nose out in the intersection, make sure you're not going to get run over. But I think staff can work with Stryker and make sure that there's an adequate solution to the issue there. And I'm Preston, thanks for standing up to him and saying, no, we can't close the whole street, because that, I can imagine that they looked at it and went, boy, that would be nice if we could have the whole street, and that the neighbors would not have been happy about that. So keep us posted on how that discussion goes. And I think that was it for additions to the agenda. Is that correct?
I have a last minute addition. I went through joke withdrawal, not having Preston's report there. So I came up with two upon Preston's request. First one is city council.
No, I came up with two.
Oh, you did? Well, I'll match your two with my two.
See what happened, Preston?
Say again,
Go
John.
for it. That's
Go
a
for it,
lot.
Terry.
Okay, first one, city council wanted to demolish the local clown museum. They couldn't because it's a historical landmark.
A hysterical landmark.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Hysterical landmark. Yeah.
Okay, you're fired, Terry.
Oh, jeez. Well, then I get one more chance. This is a retraction. The following headline appeared in the daily newspaper and threw the city hall into an uproar. Half the city council are crooks. The retraction in full was demanded of the editor under the threat of libel suit. Next afternoon, the headline read, half the city council aren't crooks.
Okay.
What do you got, Pam?
All right, here's what I've got.
Yeah, what do you got?
Okay, a man walks into a bar with an alligator and asks the bartender, "Do you serve lawyers here?" "Sure do," replied the bartender. "Good," said the man. "Give me a beer and I'll have a lawyer for my gator." Oh, come on, I have to pick on Bo.
That was good.
Right? Okay, I got one more.
Why do you have to pick on me?
Because you always have to jump in and have a joke. So here you go. How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? Come on, guess.
How many?
All
None, but
right.
they have to argue about it.
None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark.
Oh.
Oh boy.
Charge more.
Ooh. What do you think about them, though?
That one hurts. That one's personal.
Oh, boy. Well, on that note, do we have anything more serious to work on? We still have some written and verbal reports, don't we? Council committee
Yeah.
report.
Yeah, Mayor, actually, I have some items to report on. I didn't have time to get the town manager's report done for the meeting today, so I'll get that out here in the next couple of
Okay,
days. So sorry about
we
that.
understand.
Yeah, there'll always be a joke next month. So, and apparently you guys have a whole arsenal of jokes that you never share. So, we can add those to these reports. But Ride the Rockies, just a reminder, they're making
yeah.
their trip to Ridgway next week. They'll come into Ridgway from Norwood next Wednesday. That's the 16th. They'll stay overnight at the 4-H center at the fairgrounds. Then on Thursday, they make what they're coining the Ridgway Loop. And then they'll stay the evening of the 17th. So they'll be in Ridgway again Thursday night. And then the following day, they'll venture back to Durango. So it's a 2-night stay, but quite the impact. And so we've met with, so Deidre, Shane and I met with Deirdre with Ride the Rockies maybe about 10 days ago to talk through logistics and stuff and how, how we can be helpful in preparing for the stay. Shane, I think, is still waiting for, and Sheriff Perry as well, I believe, are still waiting for some information from Ride the Rockies to figure out their logistics, but we're getting pretty close, and it's a lot of riders and some impacts to the town. So just a reminder that that's happening.
Yeah, just in time for bluegrass again.
Yeah. Is the first weekend this weekend, John?
The first weekend this weekend, but the 4-day weekend starts next Thursday. Next Thursday, they're going to compete with that. Of course, it's a lot less people coming into town for it, but still a pretty major impact.
And then a couple other things. We have an RFP for a water assessment out, and they should hopefully we get some responses. I think the submittal deadline is Monday. We're looking for an assessment of the town's water rights portfolio and water supplies. So looking forward to getting some proposals there. Worked with Joanne on that. River corridor assessment RFP is out. We're looking to retain a consultant to characterize river function, ecosystem health, and channel stability within the river corridor throughout town. So worked with the Uncompahgre Watershed Partnership on developing that RFP, and so they'll be a pretty big partner in working to retain the consultant. So speaking of UWP, their Meet Your Watershed Conversation series is going through September. Their next event, which I think is the 3rd session, is scheduled for June 23rd at 5 p.m. at Dennis Weaver Park. The theme is drinking water and wastewater. There's going to be several speakers. including our very own Chris Bolane, who serves as our ORC for our water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant. So if you have some time, go check it out. It should be interesting. And then the last one, our very own Randy Barnes is going under the knife tomorrow to have shoulder surgery. Pretty big deal, and everything's going to go great, but it's a loss for us this summer since he'll be rehabilitating that arm. But we definitely wish him well tomorrow and look forward to hearing from his wife on how the surgery goes.
Great, thanks for those updates, Preston. And I would just ask if anybody else has any committee reports.
I attended the CC4CA conference virtually last week. Preston, we haven't gotten the updated policy statement, but we'll have that to review next month. It didn't change substantially this year. It was noted that as the organization has matured, the policy positions have come into much better focus. So there's fewer changes year to year. The first year I went, there were a ton. Last year there were some, and then this year there were just some small tweaks. So I'll have that to review.
Sounds good. Among other things, I just wanted to remind everybody that the CML conference is actually happening in person again this fall. They're calling it the special conference. I think that's because it usually happens in late June. So they're putting it off till September to try and make it more guaranteed to be successful in person. It's September 22nd through the 24th. And I think there is a fee for it, but I think council is, or the town is always paid for anybody who wants to go to attend. I would encourage any of you who want to network with other municipal elected officials and learn more about how other communities deal with a lot of the challenges that we face, and just kind of network with municipal government people in a way that is really fun and educational. I would encourage you to do it. Hopefully you're getting the same emails I'm getting. If not, give me a shout and I'll forward this to you. Seemed like I have something else, but I can't remember what it was now. Anybody else have anything else? We're done a little early tonight for a change, huh?
Yeehaw.
Yeah. Staff, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, unless I hear an objection, I will declare us adjourned, and thank you all for coming. Thank the public, and we'll see you around town, and I'll see everybody else next month.
On Pam Craft Day, we have to have a local celebration next time.
That's right. Right.
The boy or
Sherry's gonna
something.
eat ice cream.
For myself, yeah.
I'll need ice cream for my hurt feelings.
Oh man, Bo, I don't think we have any sympathy for you, dude.
Thanks, everybody.
You can have sugar-free ice cream. That's it.
Good night, all. Happy summer.
Right.
See you soon.
Great evening, everybody.
Thanks.